The show can't start until we crack open a bottle of Revelton. Whether it's their crisp, clean vodka, the bold spice of their rye whiskey, the rich smoothness of bourbon, or the original honey whiskey that started it all, every pour is a taste of craft and passion straight from the heart of Iowa. So pour yourself a drink, settle in, and get ready to relax, laugh, and enjoy the show.
Hey, it's Andrew Downs. I'm proud to support Three Beards Media, and I would love to work with you. If you need merchandise for your company, organization, band, softball team, whatever, I can help. From name brand apparel to promotional items, large orders or small, online stores, and more, I can help your brand stand out. AKC Marketing is local, based in Johnston, and we are an employee-owned business, so our costs are low and our turnaround times are fast. But most importantly, we give you personal service to make sure you get exactly what you're looking for. Email me at andrew@akcmarketing.com or find me on social media, and let's make some cool stuff together. Now sit back and enjoy this Three Beards Media podcast.
If you want to know where the storm rolls next, you got to read the clouds over old Midwest. Every yard, every basket, every mat that's worn, you learn to see the future by tracking the storm. We're tracking the storm, watching it form, from Jack Trice's courage to the heroes yet born. Hilton lights shining like lightning in the night. Jack Trice's way, glowing in the stadium lights. From the sweat in the barn to the roar in the stands, every cyclone story's written in the land. Yeah, the path gets clearer with each legend swarm. We're keeping eyes on tomorrow by tracking the storm. Dwayne Crutchfield, pounding turf like rain. Big 8 Saturdays, driving through the pain. 2 years, rushing past 1,000 on the ground. Made the whole conference feel that thunder sound. Then Troy Davis hit the hole like a flash. Back to back, 2,000 turn records into ash. Heisman nights, but win or lose that day, the cyclone in his chest never blew away. Seneca rolled out, crowd holding its breath. The run cut like lightning through Texas.
Hey man, this is awesome. Episode 3, Tracking the Storm. And Kent, you and I go way back with this guest. Fantastic opportunity for us to talk to a legend in the college football coaching world, Hall of Famer in the college football coaching world. Had a stay at Iowa State. Both of you and I had the opportunity to be recruited by him. You fortunately were there to be able to see him coach, and I unfortunately he left and went on to the next one and on his track to greatness, to national championship football at University of Texas. And I tell you, it is such an honor. And tracking the storm, I followed this guy's wins, losses, every single game, every single week from the day that he left Iowa State. With it, Mack Brown. Man, is it so good to see you, Coach.
Guys, great to see you, and brings back great memories. It puts a smile on my face. It's interesting. I was young enough that I yelled at you guys, and I yelled at you guys and screamed at you guys, and I have to apologize now to all the players I coached, because I say I have grown up now. I have matured a little bit more. So I didn't mean everything I said. I was a little bit older than you were, but probably didn't handle some of those situations like we wanted to.
Well, I tell you, Coach, I was there at the camp in the summer before my senior year, and you took me through the different drills, and we talked afterwards. And then midway through the year, you sat me and my dad down and said, "We're going to offer you a scholarship." My dad, when we left, was like, "Is he for real or is he kidding?" And it was such a great experience to be around you. That I tried to work for you when you were at North Carolina, but you were just getting started down there, and you had a few more important things on than whether you're going to hire a GA or not. So,
well, I'm proud of both of you, and of course I did coach Kent, and Kent and I have stayed very close for a long time. I love his family, and one of the things that happened in my career that taught me so much is when I came to Texas. Coach Royal was 72 years old, and here I am, 74. And Coach Royal won 3 national championships here, and he was like an older brother to me. So I just loved him. He was at every practice. He'd come to the office every day, and the relationship just grew and grew, and he'd take complicated things and make them simple. And that's what I feel like great leaders do. And I'd ask him a long question. He'd give me about a 4-word answer and answer it. I'd feel like a fool, but it worked. And then he got dementia, and he got Alzheimer's. And I brought him out to the game with Wyoming, and he was not doing very well, but he was okay. And I took him out for the coin toss, and he flipped the coin, and he shook hands with everybody, and he came over, and I said, Coach, I'm so proud of you. Thanks for doing this. And he said, Coach, where am I? And I said, you're in Darrell Royal Memorial Stadium, Coach. It's your stadium. He said, who's playing? I said, Coach, it's Wyoming and Texas. And he said, which one's Texas? I said, it's the burnt orange jersey, Coach, which you really developed. So he went to a home right after that, and I'd go see him about every 2 days. And what was amazing is he didn't remember he won 3 national championships. He didn't remember he was in the Hall of Fame. He didn't remember the stadium was named after him, but every ex-player that walked in that room, he knew their name. And I could tell that this business is about relationships. It's not about anything else. It's not about the trophies. It's not about the championships. You've got to do all that to continue to have the relationships. But many years later, it's just about the relationships that you made. And when you say it's a 40-year decision, not 4, you got to mean it. And I'm worried now that you guys came in together. You're still close friends. You know the guys on your team. And there's so many people in the transfer portal now, and 40 and 50 new guys coming in every year. They're not going to have the same friendship and camaraderie that you do. A lot aren't going to graduate because you transfer once, you've got about a 63% chance to graduate. They're transferring 3, 4, 5 times, and they're not going to have a community. You guys are Iowa State. You are able to stay in your community and be adored, and people help you with business. They help you with relationships. They help your family. And we're going to lose those things. And then when some of these young guys do not graduate and they don't have a community to take care of them, we're going to have mental health issues I'm concerned about, because they're not going to graduate and they're not going to be able to get jobs, and they're not going to be in a community to be taken care of. That's what college sports is all about. And we're losing some of who we are there.
I can relate to that. I was on the part of the board for the letter winners at Iowa State. And we put a pretty robust program together to go back and get the guys to come back to campus. And we had our first time doing it, we had like 50 guys. And we invested in it, put a lot of time on it, put different people from different years of graduation, different eras, because, we had Johnny Majors and Earl Bruce and Donnie Duncan, but we didn't have a long history of coaches. We had every 4 or 5 years they were moving on. But inside of those every 4 or 5 years, we had junior college transfers, similar to portal. But if you brought in 10, 12, 15 guys from junior college, they never were really bought into the full camaraderie of being a full-time, a 4-year letter winner or a 4-year player or a 5-year player. And I see that then. Still today, the guys that were the junior college transfers, we reach out, they just don't have an interest. But the guys that were 4-year guys, 5-year guys, 6-year guys, they come back, and it's awesome. And we have, out of my class, we average about 10 guys every time out of 21 guys. So pretty proud about that.
Yeah, and that's for a lifetime, and that's what changes. Kent and I text or talk all the time, and that's just part of it. And you really can't say you want to build a family without doing it.
Yeah. And
I'm concerned about that right now as we move forward.
It's sad to see. I mean, our fight song, it has loyal sons forever true, and that's, the tracking the storm, stories from the loyal sons. And those are the folks that we're going back to, and people that molded these folks like yourself and other coaches from farther back and more recent. And I appreciate you coming on. You've got a ton of other things you could do, and a jillion other players that you've got out there that you could talk to. And I really appreciate the time that you're spending with us today.
Well, you're both welcome. And I hope this will reach out to a lot of the other players that were on that team that we loved. I love Coach Duncan. We lost him. I think about him a lot. I talk to his friends a lot. And again, relationships is what this is all about. So in the long run, that's what makes it good and bad.
You bet. Coach Hudson is a very, very close friend of mine now. And, he left right after my freshman year, went on to Minnesota, and he was gone. And but he and we have a very close relationship. We're very, very good friends. I see him as much as I can when I go back to Central Iowa. So it's true. It is a lifetime thing. It's very astute to see that it is a 40-year commitment, and it truly, truly is.
And college football is different. It's hard.
Yeah.
Number one, it's hard to be recruited. When you do, it's special. Somebody's paying your time in college. And then the work that the athletes put in is just, it's like Olympians. I mean, you work every day.
Yeah.
And the NCAA can say, take a day off. You don't want to take a day off because you're trying to get better and you're trying to reach another goal and step up. And then everybody has that goal of playing in the NFL, and very few get to. And the ones that get to usually struggle when they get out to find themselves again and what they want to do for the rest of their lives. But really, that's such a pivotal time in your life. High school coaches like Kent's dad, they develop young people and get them ready for college. We're trying to get you ready for life.
Right.
And it's just a huge difference. And it was really interesting when we won the national championship 20 years ago on January 4th. And it was my mother's birthday. So I was thinking about that game a couple of days ago, and we're sitting there and thinking about those guys now in the locker room. I said, let's take this win and don't make it the best day of your life. Maybe it's the best sports day, but let's make it where you become a better father, a better husband, a better person in the community. And now I see these guys 20 years later. They thought I was crazy, but I see them 20 years later and they're all doing that.
Yeah.
And it just is really, really special to me that they've taken that moment and they've made it into something bigger.
It's a beautiful thing. I mean, I still get texts from the guys I coach. Go ahead, Kent. I'm sorry. I dominated this thing early. So,
excuse me. No, you're fine. Coach, I have a question because it goes into recruiting and it's also a little reflection. I can remember you at 28 years old sitting in a basement in Bloomfield, Iowa, and recruiting me. And back in those days, recruiting was obviously different than it is in the current day. I think it's changed a lot since I was, working for you at North Carolina for a couple of years. And gee whiz, thank you for the start of my career, by the way. But you came to our basement. You came and what you did is you made it about the people, the university, the academic program, and all that surrounding, and I always tell people you're the same guy at 28 that you are, as you said, you're 74. So you're the same person. You always had the same values. And I always truly love that about you because I've been in your staff room. I've sat there in those meetings and I've heard you talk about the same things you did when you were in my basement. And I love that part about college football. I know it matters, but is it a factor anymore with the portal and the NIL? And does the university matter as much in that relationship and the 40-year commitment as you talk about?
Yeah, Ken, I'm not sure. It's a great question, a hard answer. We were sitting, my wife Sally and I were sitting sitting at our home the summer before our last year of coaching. And she said, I'm really concerned that our value system and who we are is not college football anymore. When I came to your basement, I wanted to make sure you were raised right. I wanted to make sure that you were a fit for us, and recruits don't know that. Same with Keith. But then you all were looking at me for the same thing. So it's a fit. It's a family fit. And right now, if you don't have money, you're not going to be able to compete. Because some kids are going to want money. And some are valued by how much money you offer me. And I could see that at the end at North Carolina. We had very little money. So we were trying to recruit a kid that had really good grades that would want to come to North Carolina. We were trying to recruit kids that were from families that had money so they wouldn't ask. Well, still, there's a certain value that people put into how much do you value me by how much you're going to pay me. And then how much in that receiver room am I going to pay Kent as compared to the receiver that comes in from junior college, the receiver that comes in from high school? How about the starter? And really it's gotten down, Kent, to what is your value to me? What is your value to this program? I've had kids leave North Carolina after we left there and they've go to school and the coach will call me that's recruiting them and say, what's he worth? I said, he's worth whatever he's worth to you.
Yeah.
What do you need to pay him to get him? If you two were worth a scholarship, how can I say that these other kids are worth $850,000? They're worth whatever their value is to you. But to me, the thing that we wanted to do is be honest and be fair. We wanted to treat every player the same off the field, and obviously the ones that perform better on the field we're going to play. And you've seen that, Ken, as a player and as a coach with us. And then we wanted you to earn it. And right now, there's a lot of guys that are asking for stuff that they haven't earned. And that concerns me some. But it's given an Indiana, who's not a brand football school, a chance to win a national championship. It's given an Oregon, because they've got a lot more money. They weren't in that group of brand schools. It's given a Vanderbilt. It's given a Texas Tech a chance to go to a playoff. So in some weird ways, we're separating from the haves and the haves not, like we always have, but we're doing it now with money. But it gives some other schools a chance. Now, if you're not going to put the money in, whether you're a brand school or not, kids aren't just going to Texas because it's Texas anymore. They're wanting to listen and see what their value is to each of the players. So if I go back and coach again, Kent, I would do it exactly the same way. I wouldn't go back without money, and people would say, well, that's wrong. You should go back for the players, and you should go back for the kids. If you don't win, it doesn't work, because it's hard for the guys to listen. Nobody has fun. I've said coaching's not worth it if you lose. And that's a harsh statement, but it's not. To me, playing's not worth it if you lose, because you got to learn the values of competing and winning and not giving up and overcoming things. And we didn't coach differently in the transfer portal the last 3 years, worried about if we jumped on a young guy and tried to coach him to get him better, he would leave. I've always told the guys, if I'm not getting on you, then you better worry, because I don't care enough about you to get on you to try to make you improve.
Yep.
You better hope you're getting coached hard.
Yep.
But I'm worried right now. Guys, we were APR's a retention rate now for graduation. It took the place of graduation rates. And all it means is you're on track to graduate. At North Carolina, my last year, we had the number 1 APR in the ACC, and we were tied with Northwestern for the number 3 APR in the country. Nobody cared. It wasn't even talked about. The guys were all graduating. Nobody cared. That's what you come to school for. You don't get what you want to accomplish in college unless you graduate. And if you can win and graduate, then that puts you ahead of the game. Now, competing and being there and learning from losing, all that works. But at some point, you got to win. And you got to win to make it fun, so you'll keep doing it. And that's where the other thing, Ken, is integrity. We're seeing coaches are leaving jobs, and they're taking all the players with them. And they say, I didn't tell him to get in the portal. Well, if he gets in the portal, you know good and well you're going to take him. So he knows that before it starts. And it's not the coach's fault. It's the system. I don't like the system right now that we've got, because people are hiring a coach to get them to take their players with them. That's part of the deal. When I came to North Carolina, we had 17 guys signed. No, we had 22 guys signed. All 22 wanted to come to Texas with me. And I said, no, you signed with North Carolina. You go there. I'm not taking any of it. Some players on the team wanted to transfer, some great players. And I needed them here. And I said, no, you went to North Carolina, stay there. Kent, that's not working anymore. It's just not the way things are working. So again, I'm not sure that my values fit the values right now that are happening in college football. If you got enough money, you can still make it work with salary cap, and you can still pay the guys enough on your team. The ones with money can make it work. They say, well, everybody's wanting to leave for more money. Well, if you got a lot of money, you can pay them what you want. So then they get to stay. But if you don't have money, you're losing guys all the time. All my friends in the group of 5 schools, they they play a great game, and I'll call and congratulate them. They said, yeah, those 4 that played so good last night are in the portal. They've already been offered money through their agent. So it's just a different world. I would have a lot of trouble with the loyalty that you guys gave me. I would have a lot of trouble with that in coaching right now.
That's sad. I mean, that's really sad. I mean, being in Iowa State, being a loyal son, 18 returning starters, and the best recruiting class that they've ever had by statistics or whatever formula they use. And 2 days later, Matt Campbell's in blue and white, and over the next 7 to 10 days, I'm going to be going in the portal. I'm going to go in the portal, and they're gone. And unfortunately, Jimmy Rogers is doing a heck of a job out there getting kids out of the portal, and he pulled a bunch of kids from Washington State to Iowa State. And it's a domino effect going in reverse.
Yeah. And Keith, I don't blame Matt, and I don't blame Jimmy. No. I blame the system.
Yeah.
The system is broken, because that's you got to win at Penn State. I'd turned down some jobs I should have taken because of loyalty. Yeah. And I said, I don't want to walk out on these guys. I've talked to these guys about coming here as a head coach, and I should have taken the jobs, and I didn't. And I see guys now taking jobs, and they're getting criticized. And I'm a Matt Campbell fan. I don't know him, but he has done a great job, and he'll do a great job at Penn State. He could have left many times.
Yep.
I know North Carolina was interested in him when I left, but again, you're going to get fired if you stay too long. People get tired of you. Lou Holtz told me one time that 5 years is long enough, 7's too long, and 10's eternity. Well, I stayed 16 at Texas, and I stayed 10 years and then another 6 at North Carolina. And Sally always says that's 4 presidential terms, so that's enough. But you get tired of people, they get tired of you, they get tired of you saying the same stuff and going to the same meetings, and so change is good sometimes.
Sure.
And it's healthy, and it brings new energy in, and you have to reinvent yourself and your place, and all of that's good. I just don't like the way that we're doing it.
Yeah, it's sad. It really is. I mean, it's the greatest. I always told the guys when we get back together, we didn't grow up when we were in high school under mom and dad's roof. We grew up when we were trying to figure out how to get ourselves through college and how to get ourselves through this game, or how to prepare ourselves for the next step along the way. And the guys that we did that with at Iowa State, there's 25, 30 of us that are constantly in text groups or going back and forth about just different things. And it's just, I'm very fortunate to be able to have played during that time, because I think it's ruined. Like you said, it's wrecked right now.
Well, and Keith, it's a great point, because I always thought that I wanted to recruit guys that live close to the university. Parents can come see you play, friends can come see you play, you can get home. So that was always part of our plan. And we wanted to recruit guys that were going to live there when they got through. And that was a big part of our plan. So now you can pay the parents, you can pay the players to fly all across the country. So even regional recruiting isn't the same as it used to be, because now you can pick up and go where you want.
It's great.
Coach, can I backtrack just a little bit? We have a lot of Iowa State listeners. So
yes.
If I can kind of backtrack to, your time at Iowa State, just some memories a little bit. Then I do want to get back into the recruiting and the portal. But you changed a lot of lives here, and I remember you moving on, and we were all just heartbroken. But I would love to hear, maybe some Coach Duncan, and I know Coach Hudson, Sparky Woods, those guys. We had a wonderful staff, and we beat Iowa 3 years in a row. So under your offense, I believe. So, but please, Coach, if you wouldn't mind sharing a couple things about your time at Iowa State.
Yes, Ken. I'd never been north of Kentucky. I mean, I grew up in Cookeville, Tennessee, and the furthest north I had ever gone was Memphis, and I was coaching with Richard Williamson in Memphis, and Donnie Duncan called, and He wanted me to come, and I was 28, 27, whatever it was. I was really young. And I thought, this will be so cool, because I was really passionate about being a head coach. And I thought, if I can go to Iowa State and be on a staff with a guy that was with Barry Switzer at Oklahoma, and we can go play Oklahoma and we can go play Nebraska, I'm going to learn so much about being a head coach that it's going to be the coolest thing ever. And then I fell in love with Ames. It is cold, and I was shocked how hot it was in the summer. I thought being that cold in the winter, it'd be at least be normal. In the summer, it was hot.
Mm-hmm.
But I can remember my first spring. I drove in once, and Peg Allison was in Donnie's office as an assistant, and I thought I was in a snowstorm. I mean, you couldn't even see. And it was spring practice, and I think it was early in spring, and the wipers were bad, and we were staying in little apartments as assistant coaches as we just got there. So I got in, and I told Donnie and Peg, I said, I have never seen a snowstorm like that. And they said, oh, that's not a snowstorm. That's a little snow that's blowing. And then they also told me, because I had no knowledge of cold weather or the North, they said, when you get to your little apartment, don't stay outside more than 3 minutes or you can get frostbite. So I'd get my key out, and I'd get my watch, and I'd look to see how long it took me to open my apartment door, because I thought I was going to freeze and get frostbite before I got in. So that was kind of humorous when we did it. And then they told me you had to have that little pack in your trunk with beans and a candle, and so you could stay warm if you got caught out in a snowstorm. And I do remember I was going to Chicago to recruit, and I was driving too fast on an icy road, and Southern guys don't know how to do that. And I started sliding, and there was an 18-wheeler that was turned, and my car slid all the way down to the 18-wheeler and turned sideways and stopped in a bank of snow right before I hit the truck. Might have killed me. And only in Ames, Iowa, going to Des Moines to the airport, a guy pulls up and wants $12 to pull you out of the snow, gets my car, pulls it out of the snow. I drive to the airport, get on the plane, and go recruiting. I could have died, because I saw my life as I'm sliding down the road to that 18-wheeler that's getting closer as I'm going down. But I loved it. The people in Iowa are so nice and so down to earth. I think a lot like the people in Tennessee that I was raised in a small town with. There's so many small towns. The guys love playing football. And it was just, it was a joy for me, and it was great for me to get out of my little world and get into another world. Jim Williams, our offensive line coach, went to Orlando once in the spring to speak. I thought he would come back and say, oh, Orlando's warm and it's pretty and it's unbelievable. It was freezing in Ames. He got back, and I said, Jim, what do you think about Orlando, man? He said, there were bugs. It was hot. I was so glad to get back to God's country and get back up here where we need to be. And I learned so much. The players helped me and taught me. Donnie Duncan, I loved. I didn't like him. I loved him. I thought he was so special. I'm calling plays against Nebraska. Coach Osborne he takes the wind instead of the ball to start the game, and I think that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Well, it was because there was 45-mile-an-hour wind. We couldn't make a first down. We'd punt, and it'd blow back in our face, and they were up 17-0 at the end of the first quarter. So that taught me about that part of the game. And then I remember we had a script, and I had about 15 plays that we were going to run against Nebraska's defense to start the game, and I'd gone through all 15, and none of them had worked. And Coach Duncan calls up and said, what do you think? I said, I think we're going to get beat. And I think we're going to get beat bad, because that's the best we've got. And we haven't made a first down. So after the game, I was so disappointed. And this is where you learn things, and you have to learn to listen. I go into the locker room, and I'm so discouraged, and Nebraska beat us maybe 35-14 or something. And I told Coach Duncan that I was really disappointed in the guys. And he said, why? And I said, they didn't look like they tried. And he said, oh, no, they were ready to play. They did try, but they're not stupid. And they saw during the game that they didn't have a chance to win. So they get discouraged. and maybe they let up some after they got discouraged. And that taught me so much because it's true. And I love facts.
Mm-hmm.
So opinions you can discuss back and forth. And I also learned that assistant coaches make suggestions, head coaches make decisions. And that's why these are big guy jobs. You're making decisions that change lives. And you've got to understand that. They change lives on the staff of families and coaches, graduate assistants, analysts, and then they change the players' lives. And you've got to understand that. And I learned to always tell all of our coaches, you treat your players like you would want your son to be treated. And if you do that, this all works. Because I don't want to be cussed. I don't want to be grabbed. So how can I see Kent drop a pass and me run and cuss him and think it's going to make him have more confidence and feel better about himself? So everybody wants to be that tough guy in coaching. Well, that tough guy is the guy that screws it up. And in my mind, you can be mentally tough and treat people with respect. And that's what I expected out of our coaches. And that's what I learned at places like Iowa State.
You got
Great coach.
a player memory of one of the guys, the Crutchfields or Tommy Davises or John Quinn or Doran Geis or any of those guys or anybody on defense, Chris Washington? Any special stories with those guys?
Chris Washington, I recruited. I walked in his high school. He was playing offensive guard. And I saw this guy take a basketball, dribble it between his legs, behind his back, go up and dunk over everybody. And I said, Coach, who's that? And he said, that's Chris Washington. And I said, what about his grades? He said, he's a great student. I said, okay, we want to sign him. And those are the things. Rocky.
Oh, yeah.
Rocky was a great running back. He was so quick. And he had great vision. So he made things happen. Crutchfield, I probably nearly killed. Because I think when we tied Oklahoma or Oklahoma tied us, I think I pitched it to him or handed it to him 49 times. But the man was he was just a machine. I mean, he was not going to get tired. He was going to run over everybody. And I remember Alex kicked 3-4 field goals to beat Iowa.
Yep.
So those are things that you remember. A great defensive tackle that ruined his knee.
Bostic.
Chris
Bosky.
I hate to this day that there was, and it changed my life as a coach. There was a deep throw, and we were warming up, and a receiver ran into Chris's knee and changed his life because he was going to be an NFL player. So, I mean, I was obsessed with making sure there's no equipment around people in pregame and at practice, and making sure that one group doesn't run into another group just because of Chris and what that day happened. But there's a lot of guys. A big tight end, Alonzo. Remember him? Trying to think of his last name.
I remember Dan Johnson, Bomber.
A Bomber was tough as nails. But this one couldn't catch. No, Bomber'd knock you out if you were just standing around. He had no interest in talking. But I'll think of his name in a minute, but he couldn't catch. And we had that plastic ball that you'd throw out and get it back to him. We threw balls, and he got so he could catch better, and then he'd drop them in a game. And I learned you can either catch or you can't catch. And you don't need to waste time trying to force somebody to do something that they don't do well. Find something else they can do for them. So, and John Quinn was such a classy, great person. He was fun. I remember guys going to Chicago to recruit, and nobody could understand what I said. So I would go and I'd stop and try to find the high school, and I'd say, "Where's the high school?" And the person I was asking on the street would say, "Hospital? Hospitals?" I said, "No, high school." They said, "Hospital." I said, "No, you got to understand what I'm talking about." And then there was another time when I would say Iowa State, they thought I was from Ohio State. So I started saying, "That's pretty cool."
Yeah.
So if maybe they'll get me into school faster if I'm from Ohio State. So I'd say I'm from Iowa State, and they'd say Ohio State, and I'd say yeah. So that'd get me to school faster. So I had a blast.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Coach, I remember when when Coach Duncan left, there were a bunch of us that stormed. We thought we were storming. Went into Max Urich's office and we were like, we got to get Coach Brown. And I think you were probably then, you might have taken your first head job at App State at that time, at Appalachia State. And
would have been at LSU, I think, right? And then you went,
I went to LSU
at the end of my freshman year. Yeah.
And then you went to Oklahoma.
And then I went to, let's see, I was trying to think on that, the process. I went to LSU. I went from LSU to App State. I stayed there 1 year. I was making $37,500 at App State as the head coach. And Coach Switzer offered me $125,000. Now, I flunked out of school, but I thought that's a lot. And I can remember, I think I was making, as the offensive coordinator, I was probably making about the same at Iowa State that I made at LSU. And then I grew up being an LSU fan. I loved Coach Dietzel when he was the athletics director and the head coach there, and he was the athletics director, and he really talked me into coming. And I got to do the same things there I was doing at Iowa State. But I went to Appalachian. I stayed there a year and a half. And then Coach Duncan really talked me into going to Oklahoma because they had just lost Marcus Dupree. They'd had a tough year, and Coach Switzer needed somebody to run the offense. So Coach Duncan talked me into going to Oklahoma, and that's another podcast for about 3 hours about that interview with Coach Switzer. That's really interesting. And then my year there, and I left there to then go to Tulane and stay there for 3 years, then go to North Carolina. Iowa State never called me. I'm sure I would have been excited about it or talked to them about it. But I love my time there.
In that meeting that we had, they asked us, who are you looking? Who would you like to have for a coach? And we brought up, Division I people. Brought up, Coach Williams. We brought up your name. There's one other person, Cooper. John Cooper was at Tulsa, I believe, at the time.
Yes.
And the next day they introduced Jim Kreiner. So,
well, you all had a big impact.
Right.
And John Cooper's a great friend too.
Yeah.
He would have been a tremendous choice, and but it all has a way of working out like it's supposed to, but you've got to make an impact where you go, and it's got to be about relationships. And that's why anybody that asked me about Iowa State, I said, I'm a fan, man. I love going to Kinnick Stadium and us winning.
Yes.
I love that series coming back. That was so much fun. I love the fact that we had our chance to beat Oklahoma. In fact, we're in Norman, and I remember we're sit there and we kicked the field goal where we should have scored a touchdown and won the game. But it came right down to the end, and we missed a field goal. So it's those are things you go back and look at in your life. But again, just the relationships, the time. Anybody that asked me about Iowa State, I can fondly say, in fact, they're shocked with my Southern accent and all of my time being in the South that I had 3 years at Iowa State. And when I meet people in the business world from Iowa, I said, yes, I was in Ames for 3 years. And they said, what were you doing in Ames? I said, well, I was coaching football. Yeah. That's what we do.
Changes.
So it was fun.
Hey, this is a good point. We're going to take a quick break, Kent.
Go ahead, Keith.
We got to pay some bills, and then we'll come back and we'll get into kind of wherever this kind of goes, maybe a little bit back into the portal. Obviously, time at Texas, time at North Carolina. Just want to just talk to you about different things that you see going on out in the world today. So,
great.
Thank you.
Making great tasting bourbon requires the perfect combination of ingredients, conditions, and time. The longer it rests, the better it tastes. Revelton Distillery's new single barrel bourbon is made from 80% corn, sourced 100% from Iowa farmers. And unlike mass-produced bourbons, each barrel of Revelton's single barrel bourbon is unique. proofed on when it tastes best. As they like to say, it'll be ready when it's ready. And to ensure the highest standards of quality and flavor, owners Rob and Christy Taylor oversee the production and bottling. Every single barrel. Iowa born, Iowa aged, Iowa bottled. Try the new single barrel bourbon from Iowa's own Revelton Distillery. ReveltonDistillery.com.
In the heart of Des Moines, one name has stood above the rest: Iowa Beef Steakhouse. Step inside, and you enter a place where tradition still matters, where the atmosphere feels familiar, warm, and unmistakably Iowa. Service isn't rushed. It's personal, attentive, and rooted in genuine care. And before the main event, the freshest start in the city, our signature salad bar, crafted every single day. Then comes the reason people have returned for generations: Iowa beef, hand-seasoned with pride. Guided by flame, forged by heat. This is where flavor becomes legend. Served with the same care it was crafted with, a meal meant to be remembered. And whether the night calls for bold, smooth, or something in between, our bar offers a selection as rich as our history, including the old-fashioned we've become known for: balanced, timeless, unforgettable. And long after the fire cools, the glow of this place stays with you. Iowa Beef Steakhouse, 1201 East Euclid Avenue, Des Moines, Iowa, where Iowa comes for steak, done right.
Food and a little Revelton, something else, right?
Fashion.
Hey,
Coach, I want to ask you.
Go ahead, Kent. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I want to ask you one other question about Iowa State, and then we can move on. And I want to ask you about Coach Duncan, because I think a lot of people don't know how instrumental, obviously, he was at Iowa State and in your career as well, but for the Big 12 in general. Just some comments about Coach Duncan. I as a player, I love him. Like I said, I went to that school for the people, you being the number one reason I went to Iowa State. But if they wouldn't have had a man like Donnie Duncan, I wouldn't have gone there either. And just a tremendous human being, and did a lot for football in the Big 8 transitioning to the Big 12, from my understanding.
Yeah, Donnie had a huge heart. He was really smart. He had absolutely no ego. He wanted what was best for everybody. And I loved him because I loved the fact that somebody would be very direct and honest with me. And he saw me as the first-year receiver coach sitting up there with Dal Shealy and helping Dal call the plays. And as soon as Dal left to go be a head coach somewhere else, Donnie said, "I want you to be doing this. I've been listening. I've heard. I want you to be my offensive coordinator." And I'm 28. I mean, he had either he was stupid or he had tremendous faith in a young guy, because that's what he wanted, and he knew what he wanted. He was very confident, but again, humble in a confident way. So I loved him. I mean, he was like Coach Royal. He's like an older brother to me, and changed my career. And I wouldn't have left Appalachian State after a year and a half to go to Oklahoma unless it was for Donnie, because Donnie was totally involved in the interview, everything with Coach Switzer. And it was great for me to be there. I wanted to be that head coach. I wanted to learn. I wanted to know things. And Donnie was very instrumental in the Big 12. He was very instrumental in the bowl games. He just touched so many different things. He was a junior college head coach. But again, he was just Donnie. And I was with him at the Hall of Fame right before he died. And he didn't change any. And he died with so much grace. And I think about him all the time. We even have a group of his friends and I are still on a text chain. And I pull up the pictures of he at Iowa State, he and I together, and being together at Oklahoma afterwards. And he's just he's a huge part of my life. And even though he's in heaven, that doesn't change.
I wanted to say one thing about Donnie regard to that. In 1991, I went to the Indy 500. I had moved to Indiana, was coaching at Rose-Hulman in Terre Haute, went to the Indianapolis 500. Me and a buddy walked under the track, came up the other side of the track, and we're just getting ready to go into the pit area. And I hear Keith Schrage. And I look over, and it was Coach Duncan. 9 years after he had left, called me out, went over. He remembered the parents. He talked about the 9 or 10 guys that came in with me. It was impactful to know how, I spent 6 months with him, but he still knew all of those guys, and he knew all of us. And he was a very, very special person, and I miss him too.
Oh, Keith, that's the relationship. So I'm talking about when you sit in somebody's home, and you guys didn't realize we chose you to change our lives. We were going to help you change yours. But we always said, you've got our check in your mouth when you sign based on how you act, how you present yourself, how you go to school, how you perform on Saturdays, and all of that matters.
Yep.
And for someone to walk in there and offer you a scholarship, they really trusted you with their job. And that's what makes the coach-player relationship so special.
That is awesome. That is fantastic. Let's get back
Coach,
a little into Go ahead, Kent. Go ahead, Kent.
Where does college football go from? We got a couple big topics, and I've heard you speak on your podcast about the NIL and then the transfer portal. What needs to happen? Because it's out of control, and I've heard you talk about I on the onset I get the fan in me sometimes. I get upset. There's no loyalty, and there's loyal sons. You get upset like a typical fan would. Now that I'm not coaching anymore, I'm doing other things. And I've heard you talk about it. Who's at fault? Who's truly at fault? Is it the kids' fault? It's
not the kids' fault. They didn't ask for this. Now it's our fault in the business because you guys made $15 a month. We didn't give you any money for anything. Bowl games, you get up to $500 for a gift, but there should have been an annuity of $100,000 as a reward when you graduated, or $150,000 to get you started in your life, and then we wouldn't be where we are. But the conferences, the universities took all the money and made a lot of TV money, championship money, bowl money, and you got nothing. And your parents got nothing. That's the fundamental problem. So then people finally got tired and said, we got injuries for life. It's a dangerous sport. We should get paid. We should share some of this revenue. And I remember 4 years ago, guys, they talked to our team and said, you're going to start being able to get some money, and what do you think? You can go out, and if you speak, you're going to get paid for it. And my wife, Sally, who's very smart and been around this stuff a long time and loves the players, she said, a musician can get paid for his music in college. An artist can get paid for their artwork to be sold in college. Why can't an athlete get paid for playing? Makes sense. But there's got to be some regulations. And what we did is we put no regulations on NIL and turned it into what is called the Wild Wild West. And that's not good. It's not good for the boosters because we got booster fatigue. It's not good for the universities. And it's not good for the coaches. It's not good for the players. And then all of a sudden we took, we had a player, guys, named Tez Walker. And he went to North Carolina Central. It was during COVID. They didn't play football, so he transferred to Kent State. He played a couple of years at Kent State. His head coach leaves. His offensive coordinator leaves. His whole offense leaves. And then he wants to transfer back to North Carolina for his last year or 2 years because he's got a sick grandmother, and he's an hour and a half. He grew up in Charlotte. And they say he's already transferred twice, so he can't transfer and play. So we raised Cain. I raised Cain. And we finally got him eligible because they discarded the North Carolina Central year because he didn't get to play. So it was a 1-year transfer. So we've gone from punishing a young guy where he caught a touchdown pass this week for the Ravens in the NFL. So he's going to have a wonderful life because he got to play a year at North Carolina. And without that, who knows? He might have gotten hurt. He would have had a different life if he's not with the Ravens right now. So then we go and say, okay, anybody can transfer anytime they want. So you take the ability for boosters through a collective to give somebody money, and you put that with a combination of you can transfer anytime you want, and then you have built-in tampering. And then for years we told you guys you can't even eat with an agent and have him pay for it. And now we're letting high school players plus college players have agents. And the agents are doing all of the communication, and they're basically buying and selling these players. And now players are choosing schools for money, not academics, not for the region they're going to live in when they get through. And like I said earlier in the show, I'm worried about mental health because we're putting more on these parents and we're putting more on these players than they can handle at this age. We've become a form of professional football with young people that aren't of an age that professionals can make those decisions. And it's really, really dangerous from my standpoint for these young people. And again, they're transferring. We're having, when I'm coaching, we're having agents call during the year and tell our collective, listen, look at that defensive back, number 24, you're going to play him in 3 weeks. He's making this much. He wants to come to your school as soon as the season's over. And I'm saying that's despicable. I mean, what happened to loyalty? I'm still having trouble with guys that don't play in bowl games.
Yeah.
Guys that opt out of they opt out of the playoffs. I understand your agents telling you can get hurt, but especially now, you guys played, you weren't even paid. Now, if we're going to pay you to play, then you got to play.
Yeah.
So I think, Kent and Keith, more than anything else, we got to start with changing the calendar. The NFL doesn't have coaches leave in the middle of the season to go to a rival school, a rival team. So we've got to look at the calendar first of the season. The conference champions in the last 2 years in the playoffs are 1-9. So conference championships really don't matter anymore. It's an extra game.
Mm-hmm.
It can either help you get in the playoff or right now it could hurt you. So I think we should take out the conference championship games and we go back and we have a tiebreaker. Because nobody cares about those games as much as they used to because the playoff has taken the fire away from that. I would throw out the bye weeks. Why wait 21 days after the season till you play a playoff game? I think the teams that had the bye are 1-7 in 2 years because they had to sit and wait too long to play. And we're losing time at the end of a semester for academics. We're playing the national championship game this year on January 19th. So we're cutting into the first semester of the spring. So we have no thought about the young people's education. So I'd move the season back. I'd cut out the bye weeks. I'd cut out the games against Power 5 teams. And I would have you probably go back to a 10-game season. You'd have to figure out what to do with the bowl games. You might have some playoffs to get into the bowl games. So Texas and Michigan, Texas could have played Notre Dame to see if you can win enough to play to get in the playoff if you're on the edge. We could use bowl games for that. And I would have Group of 5 have their own national championship. We would watch Tulane and Boise State play for a national championship. Let them have their own playoff system because people are loving the college football playoff.
Mm-hmm.
They're loving it. And it's really cool. They would love the same thing that we've got it in the FCS. Why not do it in Group of 5? And let them all have a chance to win a national championship. Let them have a 12 or 16 team playoff. And instead of sitting there and one team gets to go to the playoff, or this year two, the games are bad. They don't have the money to have the same personnel that the teams they're playing. Nobody really wants to watch them, and it's not fair to them. It's like a participation trophy. Good job. That's good. You're nice. You got a nice little team. You were the best to go to the playoff and get beat in the first round. So if we would look at doing that and then not let the coach, the season be over on January 1st or January 4th, but don't go into the next semester. A coach can't leave until the season's over. A player can't opt out. A player can't leave and go in the portal until the season's over. Last year, Penn State's backup quarterback, plays a lot on short yards and goal line. He leaves when the starter says he's coming back for another year because he wants to get in the portal to go look at other places. Leaves his team when he's a factor. And they've got a chance to win a national championship. And then there's some thought about you could even, I would definitely move the signing date back to February because there's too much going on with the portal and the signing date for high school guys. I was the president of the AFCA when we did that, and we did it so any of the early enrollees could have a signing date. Any of the junior college guys could have a signing date. And then the NCAA said if you can't allow one group to sign without letting everybody sign. So then that's when everybody started signing in December. And there's some thought about you move signing date back to February, then you move spring practice to summer so you can have a full semester to get healthy after the long playoffs, get your academics in line, have your portal at the end of spring where you've got a chance to look at it all spring, and then have, like the NFL, OTAs for spring practice in the summer. And then you're more prepared to start your season. So there's some real potential things out there that could work that we've got to start looking at. The problem is, who's going to look at it? Who's in charge right now?
Yeah, right.
You got the NCAA. You got commissioners. You got Congress. You got presidents. You got some coaches. They're not listening to the coaches. They're the ones that live this stuff. And they're going to have to start looking at that calendar to get that straightened out for everybody, because right now it's not healthy for anybody.
It's a mess for sure. And you're right, the calendars. I mean, Iowa State started at week 0 or before week 0 or whatever the heck that's called, August 23rd. And their last game was the last day of November. That's a lot on kids 18 to 22 years old.
And we're going to add if we go to a 16-team playoff. And I hate the fact that Iowa State couldn't go to a bowl. I hate the fact that Matt Campbell had to make a decision before the bowl season was over.
Right.
I hate the fact that 2 Oregon coaches are coaching as head coaches at their new prospective jobs with Kentucky and Cal, but they're playing in a playoff game. I hate the fact that Lane Kiffin left, and now they're trying to decide our offensive coach is going to go back and forth and help Ole Miss during their playoff game while they're still recruiting and hiring at LSU. None of this is fair. It doesn't fit. And the people that get hurt the most are the seniors at Iowa State.
Yep.
They lost their opportunity.
Yep.
They lost an opportunity of a lifetime to achieve something, go to a bowl game, and they don't get that back. And nobody talks about those kids and what they've lost. And that really bothers me.
I've heard from several of the players that were in the room for that coaches meeting, and there was a lot of, and I'm not going to get into it obviously, but there was a lot of things that went on in that coaches meeting with the players that should have never happened. And it's a shame. It's
well, and Keith, the bad thing is, and I even defended Lane Kiffin the other day. If you stay and get fired, that's not fair to your family or the staff.
Nope.
If you stay too long. If you leave, it's hurtful. Everybody is affected. And it is really hurtful to walk in that room and leave. As an assistant leaving you guys, I hated it. I just talked to you about coming, and then here I am leaving.
Yeah.
And then you think everybody now, and it sounds really greedy, has got to do what's best for themselves, but you can't. The way they're firing coaches, James Franklin gets fired after 12 years in week 4. He was in the top 5 in preseason and played in the semifinals for the national championship the year before. So coaches are all paranoid, and they got to take care of themselves. They're saying, I can't stay. And I did that. Like I said, I made a mistake because I turned down a great job to stay at a job I had that didn't work out long term. And I did it because I thought it was the right thing to do. It wasn't the best thing for me. But at that time, I thought it was the right thing to do. And that's what you have to do. But again, I don't blame Jimmy for leaving Washington State, or I don't blame Matt for leaving Iowa State. I blame the system that we've got in place that puts coaches in a position where they have to make decisions at very, very awkward times that hurt people.
Right. I want to talk a little bit about the playoff. And, certain conferences get so many players or so many teams in or whatever. And years ago, I was on a championship committee. We were in Overland Park, Kansas, and we laid out what we thought would be a really cool football playoff, Division I football playoff. And at the time, we had the Mack, and those schools had their own division. So there was a group between 1AA and we'll call it Power 5. Well, today you have 67 schools in the Power 5 that are in conferences, or Power 4. You got Notre Dame, and you got the 2 schools that were left out, Washington State and Oregon State. That gives you 70 schools as a Power 5. I'm sure there's a way to put those into regional teams and come up with your top 2 teams out of that. That's who qualifies for the playoff. To your point, you have a tiebreaker system of some sort. And one of the things that you could look at is, let's say you have a 10-team group. They play 9 games. They got 3 games outside of that. What your strength of record is against those out of your region determines your status on going into the playoffs. But for whatever reason, they can't figure that out. I mean, you can do it in Class A football in Texas and Iowa, and everywhere else knows how to do it. But the sport that makes more money than any of them can't figure it out.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if there's an opportunity for somebody like Prime, YouTube, somebody like that to put together a program and goes, now we have a governing body overlooks it because the NC2A's proven they're going to not do the right thing.
I think everybody realizes, Keith, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but everybody realizes that we're in trouble.
Yeah.
And it's not good. And I think everybody's looking to find a means to figure out what's best. How do we get everybody in the room? And when I was president of the American Football Coach Association, some of the other coaches told me that at Iowa State, Dan McCarney and Gary Patterson at TCU, they would say, you can't be in here doing what's right for Texas. You got to do what's right for college football. And they were so right. So we've got to do what's right for college football, because if not, we're going to kill an Iowa State.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to kill a Washington State. We're going to kill some of these other schools because they can't possibly stay up with the Texas and the Ohio States financially. Exactly. And that's not fair. It's not right. It's not what we started to do. One of you asked about playoffs. What I've decided is I think the best teams, based on strength of schedule, strength of record, the best 12, 16 teams should play, and let them play, period. And forget the rest of it. I thought at once you got to have one from each conference and all that. If the conference isn't good enough to have a team that's ranked high, like this year, the ACC with Duke winning, they put James Madison in over Duke. I wouldn't have done that, but unless if we didn't take out the group of 5, if it's not legal to take out the group of 5, then they would have to be ranked in the top 16 to get in the playoff. But we could have a system, just like you talked about, where we check it. Texas this year, if Texas had played a group of 5 team instead of Ohio State, the opening game of the season, and if they had beaten them, they would have been 10-2. Would they have gotten in the playoff at 10-2, playing a lesser schedule? than losing to Ohio State and getting in at 9-3 because they got left out.
I think we all know the answer to that. They
Yeah.
definitely would have been in there.
So are we encouraging everybody like a Texas to say, don't play the Ohio States anymore? Let's cut out those really good games that we all love to start the season, and we're so proud of Texas and Ohio State for playing. Let's throw it out if it's going to kill one of them in the playoff, because that's what's going to happen.
Something just clicked. Didn't you go to Ohio State the year you won the national championship?
We did, and it was during the BCS.
Yeah.
So there are only 2 playing.
Yeah.
And we played Louisiana Lafayette at home in the opener. We went to Ohio State, and we won 25-22 with about a minute and 24 seconds left in the game. And after that game, I thought that the 3 best teams in the country were USC, Ohio State, and Texas. So when we beat Ohio State that night, that gave us the chance to go to the national championship game instead of them. And I'm convinced with Jim Tressel that their team would have gone that year if they had beaten us that night.
Mm-hmm.
But at that time, 1 game killed you. Now 1 game doesn't kill you. But are we encouraging these teams to weaken their schedule so they have a better chance to get there if strength of record and strength of schedule doesn't matter enough that you should play? Because we're getting more like the NFL. We're going to have to play 9 conference games. And what's going to happen? There's going to be more losses because you're playing good teams against good teams. We're going to have more injuries because good teams against good teams are going to get more people hurt than playing the poor teams, the weak teams. The teams that used to play those 3 or 4 out-of-conference schools to get in a bowl game are not going to be able to get those wins anymore. So everybody's going to have more losses. So that means fans are going to have to get accustomed to it like the NFL and be more patient. And they're not going to fire coaches at 9-3 because there's going to be 9-3 teams that are playing in the playoffs for the national championship. And that's where we're headed when we start looking at these schedules. So if the SEC goes to 9 conference games, the others probably will too. When they do, that means then you've got to play a national Power 4 team. So that's 10 really tough games if you're in a good league.
Mm-hmm.
So then after that, who are your other teams going to be? And do you think about who those 2 teams are to get you wins so you can get in the playoff easier? So we're all over the place. We've got to get a specific plan so athletics directors and presidents and coaches will know exactly what we have to do to get in the playoffs, because people are going to start getting fired if they don't get in the playoffs. And I love the bowls. I went to a whole bunch of them, and our players had wonderful experiences in the bowl games. I love the bowls for kids. I don't want to throw them out. I watched every one of them. I loved watching people compete.
Yeah.
So I want us to make it where the bowls can be incorporated, because let's say there's 16. If there's 130 teams and only 16 get to go to the playoffs, that's a whole lot of teams that have great years in their perspective schools that might win 8 games, which is the most they can win. Then they should be rewarded for that.
I'm going to ask you a question here, and I'm going to go off of this part because we could go forever on what we're talking about here. And I just thought of it. I remember different games as a coach and calling plays. I remember certain plays called that were successful or weren't successful. Do you remember the play you called when Vince Young ran it in for the winning touchdown against the Rose Bowl?
I knew that was going to be the question.
Absolutely. I've got a drawing in my house somewhere of that play. We actually, it was a spread play for a 1-minute offense. So it's called menu 2. And we looked at it before we left Austin, and we said, Vince, if we get down to a key 3rd or 4th down, list the 5 plays you would like, which I think is coaching.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do best? What are you most comfortable with? He said, this one, menu 2. So right before he went out on the field, because he had basically called it in Austin 50 days earlier, I said, all right, there's 3 guys that are out. There may be the 4 guys that are out, and there may be a 5th one that leaks, and you've got a really good arm, but your feet are better than your arm. And this is 4th and 5. And we're spreading everybody out.
Mm-hmm.
So you look quick, If you don't see something that wins the national championship, man, use your feet to score. And that's exactly what he did.
That is awesome. That was.
And then the coolest thing, Keith, that I remember, so we go up by 1, and there's 19 seconds left, and we got to kick off to Reggie Bush, which is not fun.
No.
So Vince took the ball, one of the greatest plays in college football history. He handed it to the official. We already had a 2-point play call because they had a really good field goal kicker, and we needed to go up by at least 3. So no celebrations, no throwing the ball in the stands, no too many on the field, no delay of game. In fact, when we got out there, USC had too many men on the field. They had 12, which gave us a better chance to score. So that's what I'm so proud of. Little things, little disciplinary things that matter in a moment of crisis that your team did well to win.
That's awesome. That is awesome. We could go down a lot of different roads, and I know we're getting kind of running out of time here as well. I don't want to keep you all night. I could do this forever, but we're going to take a short break. Unless Kent, you've got something else you want to bring up? Kent fell asleep.
No, we'll. I do want to say something at the end there, just about Coach, and
sure.
But we'll take that break.
We've talked a lot about the rules of things that you'd like to see different, and if you want to expound upon all of them, that's great. We're going to take a short break. We're going to come back. You're king for the day. You get to change a rule.
This is the Storm Anchor Amendment, where our guest steps behind the podium and makes one rule change to reshape college sports. No limits, no red tape, just their decree.
Floor is yours, Coach.
I think, guys, what we've talked about is what I would change. We've got to go back and think about what's best for the players, what's best for the coaches, what's best for the parents, what's best for the boosters, and what's best for the universities. And let's look at it from every standpoint. What we're doing is not sustainable. We're asking for so much money for football that we're going to lose some of our Olympic sports. And we're sure going to lose them at the level we've got them. And then we're going to, they'll have to become club teams, especially the men's Olympic sports, because we're spending so much money on football and men's basketball. And then Title IX, you're going to have to spend a similar amount on the women's sports. So the men's Olympic sports are going to die. And nobody wants that. The other thing is let's go look at the NFL. They've taken many years and they figured out collective bargaining. They figured out player unions. They figured out antitrust, where you don't have to be an employee of the university if you're a young player. And then let's go back and figure out salary caps, because we should have a certain amount of money that the receiver room gets, and then the receiver coach and the head coach, the general manager, can divvy that money out to where it needs to be. And the head coach knows he's got this much money. How much are you going to put in your offensive line? What's the value of that left tackle? And how do you figure all that out for best of your team? Right now, when you're looking in the portal, who do you pay in the portal? And how much do you pay them based on what money you have, instead of having unlimited funds in a collective? We're all over the place. Let's make sure that the agents are vetted. We've got some agents that really don't know what they're doing. They're not professional, and they're taking money from the kids and giving them bad advice. The NFL vets their agents. Let's make sure we take care of the agents. And let's make sure that the transfer portal, it's so out of control. If we do care about kids graduating, if we do, we can't go 4 or 5 transfer years. We can't have a kid that transfers 5 times and saying they didn't treat me right, or I got a little more money, because he's going to make more money up front than he makes in the end when he doesn't graduate. And that's not going to be fair. And then the biggest thing, guys, is just what we've talked about with the calendar. And I think, again, When I heard we were going to pay players, we are the mini NFL. So let's go to the NFL and look at their structure and figure out what in the NFL can we use to help college football. Because they have a lot more regulations on a Drake May being a quarterback at the New England Patriots than when he was at North Carolina. And then we can get back to some structure because coaches are worn out. I was on the Nike trip last year, and there's 30 head coaches that have gone to a number of bowls that are on that trip. They were all miserable, making more money than they've ever made and all miserable because coaches like to have control. Things are out of their control. Making more money than ever, but things are out of their control. I talked to a lot of Power 5 coaches the other day after their bowl game. Might have mentioned it. I called and said, great game. I said, yeah, 4 of them are already gone. I met with them this morning. Next morning, you don't even get to hug after the game. They're gone. So they said you hate to see one play good.
Yeah, right.
Because you know somebody's watching him and they're going to take him. So I love our game. Our game is not broken because there's still kids that are competing. They're wonderful kids. Not all the kids are making money. Some of them are making a whole lot. Some others are making a little. But we've got to we can't blame the players. We can't get mad at the game. We can't get frustrated. What you do is you take a crisis and you fix it. We've got a crisis. And I think it's so bad right now that it's going to help us fix it. And that's what I'm excited about. I don't think it can get any worse. It is out of control. Everybody knows it's out of control. Everybody's trying to figure out how to fix it. Everybody's trying to figure out how to get it back in control. So somebody is going to get in a room and figure out, here's what needs to be done, and here's how we can do it. The NCAA is so limited because of lawsuits now. So Congress has to be involved. One of the problems with Congress, if you've got a school that's got a whole lot of money and you can pay them all, and those fans are voting you into Congress, you probably don't want to change it.
Yep.
So we've got to get people that care about the sport and the game, that are really intelligent, that are passionate about fixing it, get them in one room and get it fixed. And that can happen. We just got to figure out how to do it.
I'm trying to figure out who the third person in the room is going to be with you and Coach Saban.
Well, the problem, Keith, is you've got to have the ability to have people that can make decisions in those rooms, not people with opinions.
Mm-hmm.
If I have an opinion and Coach Saban has an opinion, then our opinion's out there, but who is going to be able to put everybody in a room and get those opinions to be decisions where they can make a difference? And that's what's got to happen.
Yeah. Kent, you had something I know you wanted to bring up.
Yeah. Coach, thank you so much for being here and talking to us. I want to say it's, as you can see, I have a picture of you. You sent that picture to me years ago, an autographed picture of your national championship. And I just want to say, people have asked me, what's it like to work for a Hall of Fame coach and to work for Mack Brown? And I always tell them the same thing. He's the same guy all the time. You're the same guy you were at 27, 28, coming into our house, recruiting. And you're the same guy on TV. You're just as genuine as can be to take the time to come here and speak to us. It's a pleasure. It's been an honor to be able to have the relationship I've had with you. And we're just so grateful, Coach, and you meant so much to, and you can see it the way you interact with your players, your former, and your 40-year commitment, or my 40-year commitment's somewhere about 50 now, Coach. But, just thank you so much. And just,
you guys are getting older, so I think we've got to change.
He's the same guy he is on TV.
We got to change those numbers for sure. But Kent, when one of the greatest honors I have ever gotten were when my peers put me in the Hall of Fame. And when I went in the Hall of Fame, you two went in with me. And that's why that meant so much to me, because everybody who has coached with me or played for me went in that Hall of Fame, and every one of you has a piece of the painting of my life for me. You're a piece. And it all fits in that piece. And that's what I love so much. I've got so many family members. And whether it's Christmas or Father's Day or Thanksgiving or pictures of you and your families, it just puts a huge smile on my face. And it goes back to what we said in the first few minutes of the podcast. It's about relationships. And those relationships are for life. And anytime you text me, it puts a smile on my face. And that's just part of it. And you can't say it and not mean it. And that's the thing that I've loved so much about coaching. People say, what do you want your legacy to be? I want it to be relationships. I want it to be, if you change lives, if you saved lives, I want it to be relationships. And that's all that's really important to me.
That is awesome. Coach, thank you so much for coming on. Tracking the Stormers, this is our 3rd episode, and you're a loyal son just like the rest of us are. We appreciate you, everything you've done for us, everything you've done for Iowa State, everything you've done for thousands of kids that you coached. And have a blessed new year. And maybe someday when I'm down in Austin, I can run into you.
Well, thank you, guys. You're welcome at any time. And you Iowa State fans, I'm an Iowa State fan. You put me in the Hall of Fame as well, and every time you're on, I pull for you. So that's just part of it. And these two guys are a big reason for that. So thank you both, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Coach.
We're tracking the storm, watching it form from Crutchfield's grind to Troy's 2K storms. Seneca spinning through the rain and roar, turning third and long to forevermore. From Jack's I will to the Campbell years, we build up hope out of heartbreaking tears. Yeah, the line holds strong and the faith's reborn. We're keeping eyes on tomorrow by tracking the storm. Here comes Johnny O, fist up in the air. Tonight's show theme on that Hilton stare. Took a quiet Coliseum, turned it into a spell. Where top 25 giants learned to fear this well. Hilton magic swirling like a cyclone wind. We're nine on the pivot, made the rafters spin. Step back, jumper, drive down.